My name is Val Campbell, and I want to welcome you to this new webcast series that we're starting, sponsored by jewelbook.com. And thank you very much to them for being willing to take on this project. We have a lot of different subjects that we want to discuss in the coming weeks, and we decided to use this platform to do that. And as I was thinking about what would be our first topic to take on, I really felt a lot of excitement about discussing mom challenges. And I know that's a funny thing for a guy to be excited about taking on, but let me explain that over the last 6 or 8 years, as I was developing business teams internationally, I frequently had women on my teams coming to me to ask questions. Often they didn't have a support network. Sometimes there were cultural issues that really prevented them from being able to ask questions or to explore subjects, right, that might not be easily available to them. And I think maybe they felt comfortable talking to me because of the distance and because of the fact that they didn't have to deal with me in their personal life. So they came to me and asked for support or encouragement or questions. And those subjects ranged from everything, oddly enough, from breastfeeding or challenges that they were having there to financial issues or how to deal with starting up a small business and balance that with their life and the demands of their relationship and their family. And so I started a foundation that helped moms deal primarily with health problems, money challenges, help them get micro loans so that they could start small businesses, things like that. And I just became really enthused about helping moms through all of these issues. And so as I thought about this, I thought, I know some women in my life that have successfully and so amazingly navigated all of these challenges unique to moms, right? You've got a career, you've got your motherhood situation with everything that goes with that, and then a relationship and a household and a family structure. In navigating all of that simultaneously is just such a huge challenge. And I have heard women often say, gee, I wish I had some examples. I wish I had some input. So I'm bringing to you today 2 of the more successful women that I know in managing those things. Not that they're perfect, but they've been successful. They've figured out ways of doing things, of accomplishing all of their goals. And I'm excited to be able to share them with you. And I hope that you enjoy this first launch of a new series. And thank you again, jewelbook.com. Hi, this is Val Campbell, and I am from the Seattle area in the state of Washington. And we are here this evening to talk about mom challenges. And just so there's no confusion on anybody's part, I've never been a mom, not even like for the briefest second. But I have a huge appreciation for the kinds of things that moms go through and the unique challenges that role in our families and businesses and lives share. And so I had this idea that we'd convene a panel, and we've got a couple of friends, my daughter Adrian and a good friend Shar, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves. Shar, why don't you go ahead?
Okay, so yeah, I guess I can call myself a mom. I've got 3 kids, and they range in age from 15 to 9. The middle one's 13. And it's awesome. I have a background in volleyball. I'm an athlete, graphic designer, that kind of a thing. I really like being creative. And it's been really fun having these kids grow up around myself and my husband, and being able to use those talents with them and really have them grow and learn about life.
So Adrian, introduce yourself. And thank you, Shar. I appreciate that.
So I'm Adrian, and I'm married to a Britishman, and he is amazing and helps a lot. But I have one daughter, she's 5, named River, and I work full-time from home. Have worked from home for the last 3 years. So, and River has always been somehow involved in my work life, either going to the office with me or, well, I guess I've been working from home for 5 years then, haven't I? Or at home with me. So
awesome. So let's start off with a kind of a basic question. What do you think are the top 3 challenges that moms deal with? You think about that for a second. What do you think?
You want to take this one, Adrian, or you want me to start?
Challenges. I mean, I think having patience is a big challenge.
Okay.
Patience, understanding, empathy, having energy. I think being a parent, not just a mom, but a parent is difficult, is a challenge. You have this other human that relies on you. Even if they're 9, 13, and 15, they still rely on you. So, I think those would probably be my biggest challenge with River. Is she's at the stage where she likes to push my buttons. So having the patience to deal with her is important.
Okay.
So Char, what do you think? Three challenges.
So, okay, I would say the first challenge at this stage in life is time and trying to manage your time. My husband will tell you that I have way too many different calendars on my Google calendars. They're all color coded so that I know when Zoe has something, when Gabe has something, when Jake has something. And we can get them all to the right places at the right time. So that's been kind of a challenge. Aside from, so on top of being a part-time graphic designer for our city here, I also have a business that I work with my husband at home. So there's all kinds of stuff going on all the time, and just being able to stay on top of it, that's kind of a challenge. But you get better at it as life goes on. Another thing is, I thought it was so funny when you were talking about patience, Adrian, because I swear there is something called mom patience. Mom patience is just different. And I have to agree, it is difficult sometimes to have that patience. But I would love to say that it gets better, but actually when you have a teenage girl, you never know what mood they're going to be in. They switch on the drop of a dime. So you really do have to learn to be patient and know that they're going through things that I don't remember how that was anymore, but I know it's difficult for those teenagers. And I just have to be more patient and just love them for who they are and know that everything will work out. And then a third thing, my goodness, challenges of being a mom. Probably not letting your kids take over your life, because not everybody, but a lot of people have either a husband or a boyfriend or some kind of father figure that also needs attention. And sometimes that can be really grating on a relationship when all your time is spent on your kids. And I'm not a master of any of these, by the way, but they are the challenges that arise.
Those are really great points that both of you brought up, and they are, by the way, things that I see talked about a lot with the moms that I interact with. And of course, a lot of the moms that I interact with are overseas, so their biggest worry is how am I going to put food in front of my family? And in many cases, there's not a supporting partner of any kind. And
Right.
So it's just sometimes it's a kind of a community family situation where they're all just scrambling, trying to get food the next day. And thankfully in the United States, we don't have to deal with that on the same level. I'm not saying that there's not some poverty and hunger here, but it's not like Uganda. It's not like the Philippines where there is no support. So dealing with patience, that seems to be a common theme. Patience with child, right? Patience with partner. Does that come into?
Patience with everything. Patience with your job, patience with business, patience with yourself. I think as moms, we are really, really hard on ourselves. Like Adrian and I were kind of talking earlier about the fact that, we'll say, oh, we're such bad moms, but it's not true. But that's how we feel a lot of times, just because we're really hard on yourself. So you just have to have patience and know that you're doing a good job, and give yourself a little credit, I guess I would say. But it's kind of patience with everything. You kind of have to stand back. And I know I was not like this when I was younger. I think that it's kind of come with time. but be able to stand back and try and take a look at the whole picture. And I've always had this thought in the back of my head, and I know not everybody is like this, but I always feel like somehow, some way, everything's going to work out. It may not look at it at the time, and you may not be able to see it, but there are lots of times when I've looked back and gone, how the heck did I get through this? But it does take patience and it takes time.
Shar, is that a skill that you cultivated over time?
Um, you know, I think what it is that as I've gotten older, I don't have quite as much energy. And so I've learned to pick my battles. And if it's not something that I am adamant about or really passionate about, I will wait to kind of see what comes out of it. I will wait to see how my kids handle something. That's the hardest thing, by the way, is having your kids learn lessons on their own, because I want to be the one that protects them from everything. And I want to be the one that tells them what they need to do instead of having them figure it out on their own. And that part takes patience. I'm sure, Adrian, that when you have, I can't remember, daughter or son, daughter, right? Daughter. So when she is learning new things, I'm sure it's very hard to let her learn new things because she's so little. I know my kids got into everything when they were that age.
Yeah, she's a handful, and I don't know if patience can be learned, or if it just kind of happens. Like you said, like, it's all about picking your battles. Like right now I'm struggling with her being on remote learning for school, and so that adds another thing into the mix. And I've just been like, you know what, if she wants to play with her Barbies on the desk, then she plays with her Barbies on the desk. It is not a fight I am willing to have every single day, every single half an hour. So I think maybe you can learn it. I just let her get away with things that I normally wouldn't, just for my sanity more than anything.
Right. No, and sometimes you have to do that. You'll wear yourself out if you don't. So
How do you think that that's different from the way boyfriend, father, the male side of family, if that exists? How do you think that that's different for a mom?
As far as roles?
Well, patience and things like that. I mean,
Patience.
yeah, this, I'm remembering back to when my kids were little, and I remember that Adrian's cringing there.
30 years ago?
Watch it. I'm only 35, so don't be talking about 30 years ago. So
I want to know how you had me at -3.
Okay,
we'll talk about that later.
What can I say? So I can remember the differences in the way that mom handled things and dad handled things, right? So do you experience that also? Is that?
Yeah.
Go ahead,
Yeah,
Adrian.
I can ask River to do something 3 or 4 times in a row, and I'll just be like, Michael, and he's like, River, and she does it. There's no questions asked. But her and I are really close just because I have worked from home with her for 5 years. So we've always been around each other. So she's used to feeling like she can walk all over me, because there are more times often than not that I, quote unquote, give in to her because I just don't have the energy or the patience to deal with what's going on at the moment. So, and Mike is amazing at being a father and being involved and around, but most of the care falls on me. So I think it's just a natural thing for her to test boundaries with me more than him.
Gotcha.
Shar, what do you think about that?
My kids will tell you, I don't know why. I think I can be scary, but they'll tell me that when I ask them to do something and I get mad, they just want to laugh because they think it's funny and I'm not scary. I think I can be scary. But one thing that, gosh, I had something I was going to say. Oh, one thing that's been really interesting is through all of the different things that have been happening with COVID-19, and like you mentioned before, Adrian, the at-home learning and the virtual learning, Joe has been working at home since March, I think. So he's at home all day with the kids when they're not at school. They only go to school 2 days a week. And so it's been really interesting to see him have to interact with the kids all day long. And it's really more our fourth grader that really needs help with their homework and whatnot. So he has learned to have a lot of patience because for whatever reason, our son has not learned that if he would just do his homework and not complain about it, he'd get it done a lot faster. And so there's a lot of complaining that goes on, and Joe has had to learn to be really patient with that. I think it just matters on what you're doing with the kids. I get to go to work. I shouldn't say it like that. I actually love my job, so I will say it like that. I get to go to work, and I'll be at home, or I'll be away from the kids for 5 hours out of the day. And so that gives me a little bit of a break. I love my kids, but like you said, Adrian, it's a lot of energy sometimes. And as they get older, it ends up being more things that you're involved in as far as issues that they're having, problems, friends, all that kind of stuff. So.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I don't get to go away during the day.
I know you work at home. You've got my husband's role.
I don't get to go away for the day. So like there are times where River will be in the playroom watching TV, and I'll sneak out and she'll be like, "Where are you going?" I'm like, "I'm just going to the bathroom." And then I'll end up just going into my bedroom and watching YouTube by myself because I just need I can't go to the bathroom by myself without a dog or a cat or a kid trying to climb on me. So it takes patience.
Yeah. And you know what? That's okay. That's okay to go and take a break. It has to happen, or else, I think one of the things that moms don't do enough, and I'm really bad at this too, is that we don't take care of ourselves or do things for ourselves. We're always making sure everyone else is taken care of, but we need to take care of ourselves too.
That's a really interesting subject, and opens up the question, how do you do that? Okay, you talk about sneaking away sometimes, but what else?
Um,
I'll tell you that I saw a meme today on Facebook, and it said that women between the ages of 20 and 50 have been found to be far, far more susceptible to getting COVID. So the recommendation is for them to be completely quarantined. Do you see this too? Completely quarantined at the spa for for the next 14 days. And of course, a spa owner grabbed that and posted it and said, "Just want you to know we're here for you, girls." So sometimes maybe you sneak out to a spa or something like that. But how do you do that? What other things?
So I know for me, I tend to be a night owl, and my husband isn't really. And so I know for me, I love to read, and I'll read at night. It's hard though during the day when everybody's around. So a lot of times, and some people don't understand how important having me time is. But a lot of times I will take that time like for an hour at night. I tend to not go out necessarily outside the house unless I'm going to the store, which I hate to tell you is not really me time. Even though I might be by myself, it's not fun all the time. And I'll go do the different things that need to get done, but a lot of times we went and visited some friends this last weekend, and I actually went and got a facial for the first time in my life, but that is not something I would normally do. Why? I don't know. But I was away from the kids at that time, so I don't know, maybe that's why.
It's called 5:30 in the morning baths.
Oh gosh, that's awesome. I'm not up at 5:30.
If I wake up that early, I'm just like, oh, I could go in the bath and I don't have her climbing on me.
Yeah.
So part of that equation might be figuring out, some time that's not, that's not busy with somebody else, right? Adrian,
If you have it.
for your mom, that was late at night downstairs sewing. That was
Mhm.
her time. She would go and lock herself away, you know, and you know, from 9 until sometimes 2 in the morning. She was just down there doing her thing, right? And she knew she wouldn't get interrupted. So.
Mhm. It is. It's all about finding the times when you can be alone, and sometimes that is, you know, in the evenings or what, you know, at night. But and some parents have the luck that their kids sleep in until 9:30 or 10, and so they have that mornings. I don't. So, you know, I have the child that's up by 8 o'clock almost every day. So if I'm lucky, that's sleeping in. So it's all about finding that little time that you can, you know, have that me time, I guess.
And
Well, and for both of you, you have the advantage of having you know, an active dad partner there, right? That's able to help, you know, take a little bit of that, you know, attention off, take some of that pressure off, and not all moms certainly have that. So, you know, we tried to have a couple of single moms on here so that we could do that, but I'm guessing they couldn't make it because they're single moms and they probably had to go
right.
deal with family stuff, you know. But um, what do you think? What could a single mom do? Do you have friends that are single moms? What do they do?
I was going to say, I know that a lot of times, and this doesn't necessarily pertain just to single moms, but I know when my kids were younger, I really looked forward to going to some kind of mom's group. I have the luxury of not having to work when my kids were younger. And so it was great to get you know, anytime you can go, even if it's to the park and you get to talk to another adult sometimes,
Yeah.
it's fantastic. So I know that I would go to a lot of mom groups. In fact, I was telling Zoe this the other day, but when she was younger, I think I got more excited to go to the mom groups than she did, because we got to this mom group and she was throwing a fit and I was just mad. And I said, listen, if you don't shape up and start acting correctly, we're going to have to go home. And she would not stop. And so I looked at my friends and I went, I guess we're going to have to go home. I was so sad. But the mom groups really help. If you can find a group of ladies that you can, you know, talk to and share time with, even if the kids are playing together and they're occupied, then you can, you know, have some time to talk to friends.
And I think it and sure, you can correct me if you're wrong, but when yours were little, Facebook wasn't as prominent. So you didn't have the instant gratification of having mom groups or
Right.
friends that are on Messenger that you can type to at any point or any time, or, you know. And I think if you're a single mom, I think you try to, as best as you can, have those tight knit groups maybe with other single moms where you can switch babysitting days, or
Yeah.
you have
Good
grandparents that
idea.
are involved, or you have aunts and uncles that are involved, or you have that other support system rather than your significant other. I used to babysit for a mom that was single. She had a daughter, and she used to just make it work where I would come over and babysit every other Saturday. That was kind of in her budget, just so that she could have time to go out. So I think as a single mom, you're kind of scrappy and you do what you can and you make what works with what you have. So
That is a very good idea. I like that.
When I was senior in high school, my girlfriend and I were the support system, I guess you could say, for a single mom. And we took care of 3 little girls. She worked a swing shift, and then every other weekend she was gone. And so, you know, in the evening, we were, you know, taking care of the girls. And then every other weekend, all weekend, we were the people that were there. So for me, that was kind of a immersion into parenthood at a relatively, you know, early age.
I mean, we had summer dad, and
Yeah.
Dana was single. You kind of find those lifelines. My cousin, when she was a kid, and we were kids, she would come over, every other weekend or every weekend for the weekend, and it just gave, her mom some time, and it allowed her dad to see her, and it gave her some sense of, I hate to say normalcy, but a sense of like a family of a mom, dad, brothers, because she was a, only child to a single mom. Dad wasn't really involved. So, I think you kind of make what you can work with what you have.
Right. So one of the things that you guys didn't mention that I thought was interesting is dealing with menu planning. And I mean, your moms, your career women, your spouses, your daughters, and all those other things that go with that. And somehow the family's got to get food on the table and the house cleaned and all that kind of stuff. And I know that it's like, inappropriate these days to say it, but my experience is a lot of times that falls on the mom to a great degree, maybe not to do all the work, but to kind of organize that. Am I out of line for saying that? Am I like a horrible person in the 2020 world, or?
No, I don't think that makes you horrible. I think it depends on family, and I think it depends on the situation. Once COVID hit, and Mike was home more often, and because obviously I was home and he, works an hour and a half away. So by the time he got off work at 4:30 and got home, it was 6 o'clock, 6:30. So it just made sense for me to have dinner ready, right? Because then he could come home, eat, he could have an evening. But since he's been home, he's been the one that's been cooking dinners. So, I think it just depends on the situation and the way that the family dynamic is. I think if the dad's at home, he probably is the one that cooks the meals, or, since he cooks the meals, maybe he does the grocery shopping, or, I think it just depends. I know for me, we recently got into HelloFresh, which has been amazing. They're quick, easy, they have the groceries sent to you, so that kind of helped with the menu budget as well, because we were eating better food, um, and we weren't buying, a whole pound of mushrooms but only using half of it and then it going to waste. Or so, and now we just use those recipe cards that come in HelloFresh, and we do our menus off of those now. So that really helped with us, at least, because we were stuck in the, oh, what are we going to have tonight? Oh, let's just do pasta. What are we going to have tonight? Oh, let's just do a casserole. We were in that kind of mode. But now it's like cooked chicken and veggies and a starch type of a thing. So
That's awesome. I'm glad you mentioned HelloFresh, because I was actually looking into that and I didn't really know if it was a good deal or not. So I'm excited to try that too.
I think it depends on your family size. Luckily for us, River doesn't, she's only 5, so she's not eating full portions. So, we could kind of get away with doing only 2 servings. But it runs us about, we get 4 meals a week, 2 servings a piece, and it's less than 100. So it works
Oh,
for
that's
us.
awesome.
So yeah,
That's good.
but it makes it easy, and it makes it easy for Mike to cook, because he just pulls out the card, pulls out the ingredients in the bag, and goes. So that saves a lot of time as well.
That's awesome. I have been very lucky that Joe and I just kind of handle the chores together and cooking together. And I will say that since our kids have gotten so busy, and especially our daughter, we don't eat a lot together. A lot of times it's just what you can grab or what's left over from a meal that we did actually cook. Pizza is a go-to in our house, unfortunately. But, it's tough sometimes to plan menus. And when we have so many people in so many different directions at the same time, it makes it hard to sit down all the time. We do cherish those times when we do get to sit down. And having kiddos that are older has made it easier with some of the work around the house too, because they do have chores and they are expected to do them. It's part of being part of our family. It's not like it's a job that they get paid to do. And then we have extra chores that if they should want to earn some money that are not your everyday, your normal everyday chores, then they can choose to do those if they would like to earn some money. But we feel like everyone needs to pitch in our family and help out. And Joe definitely, if the meal's going to be grilled, that's Joe's domain because I don't.
Mike's too.
But
And,
yeah,
as far as like the house cleaning stuff, I mean, my dad can attest to it. We're not dirty people. We are just cluttery people. So like,
I totally
we
get
come
that.
home and dump things on the island. I swear, if I ever get to build my house, I'm not having an island because that's just where crap ends up.
It's like the catch-all.
Yeah. So, and we, Mike is always like, oh, we spend all weekend just cleaning. It's like, that's because we don't want to do it on the weekdays.
Yeah.
So typically one day a weekend is, okay, we need to vacuum. We need to, and there's so much more technology out there now that allows for cleaning to be quote unquote easier. I mean, we have 2 robot vacuums, one upstairs, one downstairs that run every night, and so there's things that we have going that help, but the dishes still need to be done every day, and it's just those things. But there are some days where I'm just like, you know what, I don't want to do dishes. I think just having the ability and the foresight to know that, you know what, you don't have to do them.
Right.
The world is not gonna end.
Right.
You're gonna be able to go to bed and wake up the morning, and they're gonna be there. So
They'll still be there. Yep, exactly.
don't feel like doing them.
You
Then
tell
don't
me
do
that if you don't do the dishes, somebody doesn't come in at night and steal them, and you're gonna.
Nope.
No.
Sorry, Dad.
I thought you were going to say like the dish elves were going to come in and clean them
Dish
for us.
fairies.
That'd be awesome. Yes.
There is that thing. So
No, and I mean, and it's different because River's younger, so we do sit down and have dinners together. But I mean, and I don't know how you grew up, Shar, but that was something we always did in our house. Like, we always made it so that I think it was very rare that we were out doing something during dinner time. We kind of always worked it around sports or, that kind of a thing. So we always had dinner all together at the big picnic table in the dining room type, kitchen type thing.
That's
So
awesome.
that was one of the things that I like knew and I talked to Mike about was like, this is something I want to do. She talks to us, she tells us stories, and kind of when you get to, have those talks. So we'll see how it changes as she gets busier and older. And
so here's the deal. This is what I will tell you about that is that if you don't stop doing it, that's all she's ever going to know.
Yeah.
And she will keep doing it. And that's awesome. We've always been kind of like the fly by the seat of our pants kind of people. Even with sports and everything, we're gone a lot of times too, like just not even here at the house. And so, yeah, I wish we had more sit down meals, but no, you just got to do what you can do, right?
Yeah, it was,
So,
it was to
and
the
not
point where like Sundays, all of the kids from church knew that Mom would make dinner. So we would have 3 or 4 extra kids some days because they all knew my mom made dinner on Sundays. So
that is awesome.
they would just kind of not show up, but they were always, our house was always open to that. So like I said, there'd be times where we had 2 or 3 extra kids sitting at the dining room table on Sundays.
That
So
is awesome. I
there
love that.
were times when our kids were all gone and the other kids sitting there weren't our kids, and we were all good with that.
Mhm.
And I think it was because as the kids got older, they fly. They've got their own lives, and even from 16 on, especially in the United States, if they're driving and they're and our kids were always involved in a lot of sports and things, so they were gone a lot of times, and then they're in college and they're doing these things. But Sunday night was a set aside, and we used to play board games and do things, and we kind of made that part of our community culture, because a lot of those kids that were here that we knew from college or church or wherever, they liked that too. So that was something that we could kind of build around.
It's great when your kids start to look forward to that family time.
to try and create some kind of a routine. And I guess for moms, I would like to, not a mom, sorry, but I've experienced, raising kids and doing these things. Children of all ages like to have routines. They like to have something they know they can rely on, something to come home to. And it could be a simple thing. It could be one meal a week. It could be whatever you can make it to make it and reserve that time. And we used to spend those times talking about world events. And I used to specifically make up little games, geography games or things like that, that we could play to talk about the world and talk about what was going on, to use it as some kind of an educational and edifying experience. Are you thinking about setting up a side hustle? Just a few years ago, I'd never heard that term. But today, one of the biggest trends in the world is people looking for income outside of their jobs. In fact, for many of us, our side hustles recently became our only hustle. Business closures, retirement, decisions to stay at home and work, the reasons differ, but the result is the same. People are looking to make money and get home-based business tax advantages doing the things they love. You can turn just about any skill or ability into a side hustle. And the truth is, all of us have something we're really good at. And if other people knew about our skills, they would hire us. But how do you get started? Because that's complicated, right? Well, actually, no. Not with jewelbook.com. We have a one-stop community where people with skills can connect with people who want those skills. At jewelbook.com, you can set up a free page, describe your service, set your schedule, and your fees. Jewelbook.com does the rest. We process your payment and provide you with an easy reporting process so that you can be legal and secure. Payments are handled using the most secure payment certification process available. Jewelbook.com, the premier skill marketplace to buy or sell skills across the USA. And so maybe that's another thing that I could throw into this is do it on purpose.
Yeah.
As much as possible. I mean, our lives are all crazy, right? Because we've got so many businesses and so many different, we don't have kids in the house, but we still, we've got so many businesses and so many things that we're working on that we have to plan our meal situations the same way. And so we tend to buy the bags of veggies for stir fries and things, and then we can eat those. And we'll buy a big package of chicken that's on sale at Winco or something like that. And then Sunday, it all gets cooked up, and the fridge is packed with stuff that we're going to eat during the week to try and plan ahead, because we don't have so much ability to just cook every night or something like that. So
Sunday is definitely a night for us that we do get to sit down and have a meal together and whatnot. And we're trying to learn. We have an Instant Pot, like most of America. I think it seems like we were actually late to the game with that contraption, but we're learning how to use that too. And learning that there are sauces that are already done, and they tell you how to do the put the chicken in and everything. We had teriyaki chicken the other night, and I was like, oh, this is really easy, done in 20 minutes, So sometimes it's just finding those meals that can be done quickly, and those are great. So
Yeah.
And I think people tend to, if you have multiple people in the family, not just kids but adults, they do tend to gravitate, you would hope, towards who's doing what. And I know when Ems came here from the Philippines, she literally took one step in the door and looked around, and she looked at me and she said, "You cook, I'll clean." And it wasn't that I was so dirty, but to her, coming from a culture where the houses are very small and you don't have a lot of things, there is no place to clutter stuff. But
Yeah.
of course, me with a bigger house, I've got my office here, my office there, my office someplace else, that I drift, through the house working on different projects and things. So I've
Has my whole entire life.
the floors and stuff are clean. The issue is that I've got these piles of projects that I'm working on, different businesses in different
Inside
locations.
and out.
What's that?
Inside and out.
Yeah, that's true. But so like just this evening, she came in what was formerly called the dining room, and she looked and she said, "What happened to your office?" And I said, "Don't touch that. Don't touch that. I've got it all laid out there.
It's all organized."
But again, I tend to be able to help more with cooking. The only thing that she has informed me under no uncertain terms that I'm not to touch the laundry. That's a no man's land, and the issue
That is serious stuff right there.
The issue is that I don't do laundry in the same way she does laundry, and she does not want me doing her laundry. And I can understand. I just throw stuff in there, and I throw soap in there, and it goes around and around. I take it out and throw it in there, and I don't turn things inside out, the things that need to be turned inside out, stuff like that. It's just, because I don't have that. I've got t-shirts, I've got shorts. That's about it. That's all I got. What's that, Adrian?
I don't have the time.
No.
I think my laundry from last weekend's still in the dryer.
Well, some of this is cultural, and so some of you moms may be in different. Would that be multicultural families? Because I'm Anglo from the United States, she's Asian from the Philippines. They do laundry different there. Everything's done by hand. They don't have washing machines.
Yeah.
So when they're doing laundry by hand, and that's another thing, is that she struggled to kind of get used to that, doing laundry in a machine. She said it wears out the clothes too fast. We don't worry about that there. Other places it is more of an issue. So anyway.
And it's not just the Asian countries. Mike's mom still hangs her laundry out to dry.
Yeah.
There are things that his brother will not put his sheets in the dryer. Always hangs them out to dry. He says they smell better.
I can see that.
They smell fresher and they smell pretty, So it's not just the Asian cultures, or it's, and then their houses are smaller and they don't have the room for most don't have room for washers and dryers.
Right. Yeah, I didn't mean just that. That's just one example, but in multicultural families, you have these different things. And so, again, patience kind of comes into it.
And, as much as I laugh that he's British, it is multicultural. There are things that I'm like, why? And it's just what he's grown up doing, or, his lack of love for peanut butter and my American love for peanut butter. Like, there's just things that are different. So.
He doesn't like peanut butter?
Nope.
Peanut butter is awesome.
I'm just.
That's how he knows River is mine. Other than the fact that I gave birth to her, that's how he knows, is because she likes peanut butter, he says.
Speaking of birth, can we dive into something purely womanish?
I will tread lightly, but yes.
How did you guys deal with postpartum issues? Is there anything about that? Because I see this subject a lot with moms, and the moms that I'm involved with, the 8 or so moms that I'm regularly involved with in helping support and counsel, this is a pretty big deal. And what would you share along those lines? Can you remember?
I think I probably have more recognition, more remembrance than Shar does. Her kids are a little older. But I think that is really dependent on the woman. Mm-hmm. There are women like me who have an easy pregnancy, no issues, go in, have a C-section, have the baby. She had some blood sugar issues, so she was in the NICU for a few days, come home, and I was out walking around the next day. Did it hurt? Yeah, but I was okay. I think there was one major blood clot that I flushed. that I was a little bit like, okay, I need to slow it down. But I didn't have to have my incision impacted for drainage, or I didn't have any issues. But there are some women that their bodies just don't heal the same. Um, and being pregnant and giving birth and having the extra hormones, and it changes how your body deals with things. So, there are some women who, I'm obviously, overweight, and that was one of the concerns, was my incision, was how was it going to heal, and I had no problems. But there are some women that are 120 pounds that have a C-section and have nothing but incision infections. So I think it really is just the individual person. I suffered from, I've learned a lot in the last probably year just about myself, and my dad can attest to this. I am a very anxious person. I think a lot of that has to do with the fact that I was and am highly ADHD. Um, and being pregnant and afterwards really brought that out in me. And so I had to go on anti-anxiety medication. Um, it did change that chemical imbalance or whatever was going on. It did make it worse, and I quote unquote did become a different person because I was struggling with that more. Um, Mike can tell when I haven't taken my medication, because he's like, you're testy, you get overwhelmed, the noise of the dog walking affects me, or so I think, when I think I don't think any woman has the perfect birth or the perfect postpartum. I think a lot of women have postpartum mental issues that go unnoticed or undealt with, um, which, or they think that it is something else going on rather than having to do with postpartum. Um, so, and we're fortunate enough that we do live in the United States, where we do have access to doctors and the medication and the medical care that we do. Um, so, I, other than the anxiety, I don't recall struggling with postpartum very much. It was a fairly simple thing for me. So, but I had a lot of help, right? I mean, I had Mike and Jane and Charles were here. You and Mom were around. Mike was around. So I wasn't alone. I didn't feel like I was doing it alone. I think some women feel that way sometimes.
And some women are alone, and
Yeah.
they don't have, I've got a couple of friends that I helped coach through the postpartum days. I know it sounds kind of strange that a guy would be the one that would help them, but they had nobody, and they didn't have mom figures, they didn't have dad figures, they didn't have anybody, and I was there and had some experience with kids, and so I kind of helped them through that. And it's, if you're a single mom and you're isolated, that is a scary time, because you don't know how to deal with the baby, you don't know how to deal with any of that. And they always say, well, they have classes in the hospital and things like that. Well, my experience with that is that they're kind of like passing through. They're not really there 2 weeks later to help coach you, or the middle of the night to answer, the baby's crying, is it okay, what's going on, because you just don't know. So
I think there's even non-single moms that feel isolated when they bring home a newborn, because they feel like they're the only ones that can hold it. They're the only ones that can get it to stop crying. They're the only ones that can feed it. They're the only ones that can soothe whatever is going on. And so I think being a mom in general can be an isolating situation in a woman's life. And you, unfortunately, you hopefully have someone like you, Dad, for these women, or Mike for me, or you and Mom for me, and you have to surround yourself with whoever makes up your family, friends, grandpa, grandmas, uncles, aunts, cousins, and hopefully that will get you through it. But I mean, there were times where I felt isolated and I wasn't, but you go through these hormonal changes, and it changes the way your brain sees things and thinks things. And some things that aren't extreme become very extreme. And some things that are very extreme don't affect the person. So
Shar, at the time, a professional athlete, right? I mean, you
Right.
were at the top of your game. How did you pass through that period of time? How was that for you?
To be honest, it is still tough, even now, because my daughter's now playing volleyball and she's amazing. And I didn't get to hit the goals that I wanted to hit. So sometimes it's still tough, but we waited a long time to have kids, like 9 years. And we just decided, it was time. We needed to start our family, and kids they can just be so amazing. And I was trying to do volleyball and be a mom at the same time. But I quickly learned that I'm one of those 100%ers. If I can't do something 100% and be really good at it, then I don't want to do it. And I was quickly learning that you can't be a mom 50% of the time. You can't play pro beach volleyball 50% of the time and be good at either one of them. So I had to make a choice. And obviously I already had my daughter. So I decided I was just going to, retire and focus on being a mom. And it's been amazing. Watching all three of our kids grow up has been absolutely fantastic. So, but I'm not going to say it wasn't hard. It was tough.
But
it's all worth it, but it's hard.
Totally.
Again,
it's totally worth it.
There's just because of the nature of being a mom, you are the one that carries the baby. You are the one that has to go through all of that biological change. And it's not just a matter of getting pregnant and having a happy 9 months and bringing the bringing the little cherub home. It's the morning sickness. It's all of that stuff that goes with it, and the postpartum hormonal possible depression.
Right. So,
but then on top of that, I want to throw one more thing. On top of that, you had to give up your career that you trained your whole life for.
Yeah. So it's been an interesting ride for sure. I played volleyball in college and didn't really, beach was like a hobby for me in college. And somebody in California encouraged me to come out and play out there because I just loved it so much. And then it became a profession, but it wasn't something that when I was a little girl, I said, oh, I'm going to be a pro beach volleyball player. Because to be honest, I didn't even know anything about it. But as far as I played, if I remember correctly, I played until I was 6 months along. They said, as long as you're not doing anything new.
Wow.
And when you're, and typically when you're having your first one, you don't show as much. Definitely was not true for my second and third, but yeah, I was still in really good shape. And even after I had her, she was down at the beach with me almost every single day. And this is going to sound crazy, but we would take breaks and I would nurse her and then we'd get back on the sand and I'd keep training. So, but when I got to my first tournament after having her and didn't have the results that I wanted and realized I just didn't have enough time to train and focus on it, I decided, what, I had a great career in beach volleyball and I loved every minute of it. And it was just time. It was time to move on to a new chapter in my life. And I was totally okay with that. So, and I didn't have morning sickness. I got lucky. I have watched many of my friends go through horrible experiences with the pregnancy in the beginning. Of course, they ended up having healthy babies and loved their kiddos. And the thing that's amazing about being a mom is, and having a kid, I guess I would say, is that a lot of times, I think, I would love to say for the majority, I don't know if that's true, but a lot of times you go through the birthing process, and I had horrible acid reflux. That is the one thing I did have towards the end of the pregnancy. I had to sleep on the couch sitting up because I couldn't lay down. But you go through this whole birthing process and you're like, oh my gosh, this is kind of hard. And I don't know if I want to do this again. And then you have that baby and you just kind of forget how hard it was. And then you're like, oh, I think I need to have another one, So it's kind of like that. But I was lucky to not have any like depression issues afterwards either, because I've had lots of friends that have had that issue as well. And it's tough and it's real. It's not something that I hope that nobody who goes through postpartum depression ever thinks that it's just them. It's just in their head. It's not real, because it is. It's definitely real, and something that really they need support for and help for, and that kind of a thing. So
I swear my neighbors up in Auburn thought I was a drunk because I couldn't throw up in the toilet or the bathroom or the sink because the smell. So I would go out and puke off of our porch. So I
oh
swear they
gosh.
thought I was like drunk. Like every other morning I was out there puking.
Oh no. Oh, that's a bummer.
Oh, just to
And
reinforce something you said, Shar, it is not only pregnant women that suffer with
no,
hormonally induced anxiety issues. I experienced that, as a healthy, athletic kind of guy. As I got to a little bit later in stages in life, and hormones change for men just like they do women, and I went through that also, and had to do some things and work with some doctors to get that. Anxiety is a horrible
Yeah.
thing to experience. It
men
is.
deal with postpartum depression and anxiety just as much as women. It changes their life too. They
Right.
now not only have their wife to worry about, but they have this precious little baby, and it changes their whole world. And in some guys that can cause, unbalance, and then that's when they suffer from it too. I don't think that it is just women get affected from it.
No.
I
I
would
think it
agree
is
with that.
less likely for a male to go to their doctor and say, hey, I have postpartum anxiety or depression. But I think that, and it's less recognized in men after their wives give birth, but it happens. Your life changes.
And I just want to throw in on that subject. Here's a guy talking about postpartum depression, but I'm talking about anxiety, hormonally induced anxiety. And I literally had a doctor say to me, you just need to learn how to control that. And this was supposedly somebody that had a background in, hormone medicine. And I just literally got up and left. And so I just want to throw out here and tell women, if you're dealing with that, go get help. Don't be afraid to go reach out to some other people. And there are some things that I learned to do during that period of my life when I was trying to figure this out that would help me to manage some of that a little bit. But it's not just something you can tough it out and work your way through. It's something that can be helped, but it is very real. So as we kind of, I could like spend hours doing this. I love this whole topic and conversation, which is just because of some of my experiences. But being a mom now, what do you wish you knew, Shar? We'll start with you. What did you wish you knew before that you know now? What can you share?
Oh my gosh, do I know anything? No, I'm just kidding. Okay, what do I wish that I knew now, or I knew before that I know now? Um, I I wish that I would have known that kids are very resilient, and that I don't need to worry about them as much as I do sometimes, because I was the one that, the kid would fall and I'm like, and they were fine until I did that. And then tears and all kinds of crazy. And my kids haven't really had too many horrible things happen to them, but there has been blood, and, a front tooth died because my kid fell and hit his face on the step. And I'm just like, oh my gosh, what do I do? But I wish I would have known that kids are a lot more resilient than I think I give them credit for sometimes. And that would have reduced a lot of the stress that I went through. So that's my answer.
Adrian, what do you think?
I don't know. It's one of those things, there's not one thing that I don't know. I go with the flow. I don't think there's one thing that I'm like, oh man, I wish I knew this before, but just love them. That's all they need. They don't need toys. They don't need clothes. Well, they do, but you know what I mean? Just the kids just want love. They're when you get mad at them, or when I get mad at River and she comes up to me, she's like, but I love you. And I'm like, I know you love me, but I'm frustrated, but I want to sit with you. I love you. I'm like, it melts your heart, but they just want to make you happy as their parent, and just want to be loved. And if that's all you can give them, then they'll grow up perfectly fine.
I guess the thing that I think about with the moms that I help that are struggling through things, and if I had to point to one thing, I would suggest plan ahead. I know that sounds really crazy, but we're talking about the things that moms struggle with. And a lot of times I feel like if they would just sit down and kind of make a list of some of these things. I need a support group. I mean, it sounds easy at the time that you are having issues to think, gee, I wish I had somebody I could go to. I don't think you can have enough support group. People that you can talk to. And sometimes it's not enough to just jump on Facebook. Sometimes you need somebody to come help. You need somebody to sit and hold you, or to hold the baby, or to help with advice. Reach out to La Leche League. And unfortunately, they're not all over internationally. There are a lot of moms that struggle with breastfeeding, and we didn't even have time to get into that whole.
That's a whole nother topic.
That's a whole show. That's a whole show, right?
On what you were saying, though, that is a really good point. And I don't know if this is a woman thing or what it is, but I think that something that needs to be pointed out is that it is okay to ask for help. And I am terrible at this. I'm always the one that people are like, oh, does anybody need help? And I'm like, oh, no, I don't need help because I'm fine. I have like this support system over here or whatever it may be. I'm fine. I don't need the help. It needs to go to someone who actually needs it. But you know what? Everybody needs help at some point in their life. Mm-hmm. They all need help. And so it is okay to ask for help. It does not mean that you can't do something on your own. It does not mean that you're completely helpless. It just means that it would be nice to have a little bit of a load taken off your shoulders for a second so that you can breathe.
Hindsight's great. I mean, yes. It's what it is. Like you say, like, sit down and make a list. But when you're in that moment and you're making that list, you may think you have a support group, or you may think you have that, but then when push comes to shove, you may find out who your real friends are or who your real support group is. And, and as much as you say, make a plan, I knew for me going into births and all that if I had a plan and it didn't go the way that my plan was supposed to go, I was going to freak out. So it was just best if I didn't have one. If I went in and said, my plan is to have a healthy baby, I don't care, then that was fine. But there are some people that I told that to, and they're like, oh my goodness, how do you not have a plan? How do you not have a birthing plan? How do you not have I want to be in labor for so many hours before then you can do a C-section? Because that's not important to me. And to some women it is. Some women need that. Some women want that time to birth and that time to, try unmedicated or whatever. But for me, I knew with my ADHD and my anxiety that I did have, and Dad, you can attest to this because I was this way as a child, if things didn't go the way that I had planned them in my head, it causes issues for me. It does. And so it was just better for me not to have a plan. And that, and much as that it sounds like I'm flying on the seat of my pants, I am very routine, but I don't, for this particular thing, I just didn't have a plan. I was like, I want to have a healthy baby. We had candid talks with my doctor about my weight and, surgery. And if it did go into a C-section, how were the incisions going to go? So, we had plans like that, but that was so that she was safe and so that it went smoothly. But I didn't necessarily have a birthing plan. So, and like I said, some women, it's important. It's what they need to be able to get through it. So
I think my only plan when I was giving birth to my kids was that the minute I walked through the door, I wanted an epidural because I didn't need to go through the experience. I just wanted the healthy baby. And my last one, it's interesting that you talk about planning the C-section incisions and whatnot, because my first two, were normal births, but my last one was an emergency C-section. And that was something I was not ready for. And it kind of threw me into a tailspin. So, so yeah, I get the planning thing, for sure. I kind of think I kind of fly both ways. I totally get not having a plan though too, because sometimes it's nice to just be able to adapt to what's happening. And that's hard sometimes too.
I think especially in that situation, like, I think some can get so detail orientated and so worried about their plan in that moment that they're missing being in that moment.
Truth.
They're
I
like,
agree.
okay, it's been 6 hours and I haven't progressed to 5 centimeters yet. So what's on next on my birth plan? But instead of just letting it take its course and being natural per se, they worry more about that than being in the,
And that may
in the
be
moment.
that may be why they haven't progressed, because they're stressing out so much. So
Great conversation,
Sit
ladies.
back and enjoy the ride.
I really
Exactly.
appreciate the time. I know that there are a lot of women who are going to tune into this, and at the end of this, they're going to say, boy, I wish I could hear more. But but all good things come to an end, right? A close. And Shar, thank you so much for taking the time away from your busy life and your schedule and your multiple businesses and
this is my me time. Just kidding.
yeah, great. And
Make him feel guilty.
please tell Joe that I said thank you for sharing.
For sure.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me.
Adrian, thank you so much. And again, please tell Mike thanks, because he's inside Take Care River right now, isn't he?
Probably. I hope. I don't know. I said Duke and I left.
There you go.
Not my responsibility. He knew I was on at 7, and
but I noticed
whatever shall be, shall be.
I noticed you had to sneak out and sit on the porch too. So
that was my choice.
Well, that's it.
And if I was in the house, I would probably end up with River on top of me somehow. So
that's true. And tell Jamie I'm sorry. Maybe we can loop her in some other time. I appreciate the thought.
Yeah, I mean, I think we should probably do another one about, like you said, breastfeeding or something, because I was one of those moms that knew from the beginning it was not something I wanted to do. No, drive to do it. So
and
everybody has a different
I'm
story.
that guy that wish I could be a mom just so I could breastfeed a baby. And I know that sounds really weird, but it's the most beautiful thing.
Boy.
I just all my girls in the Philippines, breastfeed out of need, right? A lot of them. And I just look at that and I go, man, it must be such a great thing. So there's all kinds.
It's amazing. I just had no want to do it. So.
Yeah. All right, you guys. Love you both. Thank you so much.
All right.
Thanks.
Bye.
Talk to you later. Bye.
Bye.